Hi, this is Joe again with another multi-family review. This week we're doing a baseball video. I know people are a little nuts, but I'm going to discuss this coming weekend. So doing this video, we're doing it on Tuesday, but this coming on July 22nd, 2014, this coming Sunday is going to be the Hall of Fame ceremony in Cooperstown, New York for the Baseball Hall of Fame on the 75th anniversary celebration year. So I figured to discuss the Hall of Fame, particularly its Hall of Fame class, before I discuss anything else. When the Hall of Fame did open up in the first induction ceremony on June 12, 1939, and what a class that was. We had Cy Young, Honus Wagner, Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, Walter Johnson, Christy Matthews, and you had these greats. But for the class of 2014, it's the biggest joke of a class you're ever going to have in the history of baseball. In the history of the Baseball Hall of Fame, the biggest joke of a class. Because it's pretty obvious why. You can see behind me. As a Mets fan, so of course this year's Hall of Fame class is practically all Adam Faze members, except for Tony La Russa. Well, this year you also have an unprecedented amount of managers being inducted this year, and at least 2 out of the 3 managers. The only way that 2 of these guys should be, or at least 4 of the members of the Hall of Fame class should even get into the Hall of Fame until they buy a ticket to get in. And they pay the admission fee to get in the Hall of Fame. And of course, the 4 I'm talking about is, of course, Tony La Russa, Bobby Cox, 2 managers, and Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux, just 2 players getting in. There's an absolute, and of course, the other one being Joe Torre, manager of the Yankees from 96 to 2007. It's another joke in this Hall of Fame class. Seriously, dealing with the 2 players, Maddux and Glavine. Even though they both have won 300 games and they spend left like hell if they put Greg Maddux in as a Chicago Cub, but not as another Brave, because that's what he started his career with. And of course, he spent a good chunk of his prime with the Atlanta Braves from 1993 to I think 2003, 2004. He spent with the Braves, and then went back to the Cubs for a couple of years, and then he went back to the Braves, and I think played for somebody else. And of course, you have Tom Glavine, who had a habit of blowing plan-winning or World Series clinching games. Most famously, of course, in 2007 when he played for the Mets. And in the last game of the season, when the Mets had to win to either tie for the division or force a playoff game or win the division outright, and Glavine pitched the last game and he gave like 7 runs in the first inning to the Florida Marlins. And as soon as I heard he was going to be pitching that game, I said to my father, he's not going to win. He's going to get his ass kicked. My father says, "Why? It's Glavine." Why? Because he's older? I said, no, not because he's older, but because he used to play for the Atlanta Braves. I would not trust an Atlanta Braves pitcher to win the pennant. Everyone would trust in the pitcher 10. That's how bad the Braves are. Throughout most of the time they won the pennant, or at least the division. And sure enough, he gave him 7 runs in the first inning. And my father said, "Oh, that's because he's 4 years old." I said, "I don't care if he's 40 years old, 20 years old, 4 years old. He can't get it done in the clutch." And there's a problem with Glavine and Maddux. Even though Maddux did win over 350 games in his career, Glavine also won over 300 games in his career. But who, in all their wins, which is like over 600 wins combined, who did they beat in all those games? Who did they beat? Because most of the time when the Braves won the pennant, won the division, that's all they won was the division. They haven't won anything. True, they won the World Series in 1985, but that's the only time they won. This is also the team or franchise that lost the last 8 games they played in the World Series. They lost all 8 games. True, all of them were to the Yankees, but they lost in 1995 after they finally won the World Series, and the only reason why they won that year was because Dave Justice closed his eyes and swung the bat. If he didn't hit that stupid home run in Game 6 of the 95 World Series, the Braves would go all those years, like 15 years in a row, winning the division without winning a World Series. If Dave Justice didn't hit the stupid home run, because I'm telling you now, if Dave Justice didn't hit the home run, the Braves will most likely will have lost in 95 as well. Even though they had to lose Game 7 to lose that World Series in 95, they would have lost that year. I almost practically guarantee it, because the Braves were not going to win that World Series against Cleveland. But they did. It was like dumb luck more than anything else. And so for me, that's why Glavine and Maddox, along with Bobby Cox, got into the Hall of Fame, because of that run in the 90s of getting into the playoffs and getting into the World Series. I mean, they got in the World Series like 5 times, but really it can only 4, because well, actually technically 3. Let me lower it. It's actually 3 times. Because in 1992, I thought Sim Green was out of the play in the playoff game, the 7th game of the playoffs against Pittsburgh. I thought it was out of the play. It was out then, in 1992, it's still out in 2014. And the other time was, of course, in the 99 playoffs when they were playing the Mets. They won the first 3 games, not by decisive scores, by the way, pretty close games. And then the 6th game, when the Mets won games 4 and 5 in Shea Stadium, of course, Game 5 was on the famous Grand Slam single by Robert Ventura. The Mets were on the verge of winning Game 6, and then the 11th inning, they blew Kenny fucking Rogers. Excuse my language. Kenny fucking Rogers blew that game in the 11th inning because he was walking everybody in the whole goddamn ballpark. So to see the Braves, particularly the 1999 team, who eventually got swept by the Yankees in 4 games. To quote the line from Rocky 2, they won, but they didn't beat the Mets. The Mets gave them the pennant on a silver platter. So those 2 years, in 92 and of course 99, they didn't deserve to beat the World Series. Those 2 particular years. But to say how great the Braves were because they won these divisions, well, look who they lost to. They always end up losing. They had a tiny run. They always end up losing to a team that got hot at the right time and they beat them. The only time when the Braves lost to what I felt was the better team was in 1992 when they won the World Series and they lost to the Blue Jays. Even spoke like 10 years later. I ended up speaking to Dave Winfield at an autograph show, and he pretty much agreed with me on that. Because he thought about it, because I thanked him for beating the Braves in 92 because he got the World Series winning hit. And he said that was the only year when you beat the Braves in 92 was the only time that I felt that the Braves lost to the better team. All the other times that I lost, either in the playoffs or in the World Series, they ended up losing to the team that got hot at the right time. And Winfield sits there, he goes like this, thinks about it, and he says, you're right. You're right on that. Because if you honestly look, if you honestly look at it, they always end up losing to the team that got hot. And they have it with the Phillies in 93 when they actually lost the playoffs, which was a big shock to everybody that the Phillies lost in the playoffs. Or should I say the Phillies beat them. And then you had the big run in after they finally won the World Series in 95. They had a 2-0 lead against the Yankees in '96, and they ended up losing 4 straight. And then, of course, in '97 they lost to the Marlins in the playoffs, and then in '98 they lost to San Diego in the playoffs because San Diego got hot in the night time in '98. And as a matter of fact, '97 the Marlins were a better team. But in '98 they lost to the team that got hot in the right time, and of course in '99 they got swept by the Yankees after barely beating the Mets in the playoffs. And then the rest of the years since, they ended up losing. They lost in 2000. They got swept in 2000 by the Cardinals in the first round. As a matter of fact, when the Mets won the pennant in 2000 for beating the Cardinals in 5 games, people would complain there was not a real championship because of the fact that they didn't play the Braves in the playoffs. That's not the Mets' fault. The only critics out there criticizing the 2000 Met team for winning the pennant, that's not the Mets' fault that the Cardinals beat the Braves. The Cardinals, the Braves lost. They got their asses kicked 3 games in a row by the Cardinals in the first round of the playoffs. That's not the Mets' fault. That's the Braves' fault for losing. Not the Mets' fault. Because the Mets, they didn't want to give the Mets credit for winning the pennant in 2000. They said, oh, if they played the Braves, they would not have been in the World Series. So would another Yankee, would you rather see the 3rd Yankee Braves series in 5 years? No. Then they lost in 2001 to Arizona. They lost it in 2002 in the first round. They lost it to the Cubs of all teams in the first round in 2003. Then they lost in 2004 in the first round. They lost in 2005 in the first round. So it got, it's pathetic. And then 2006, thank God, the Mets finally broke that string. And then last year, the Braves won the division after not winning the division for about 7 years, 8 years, something like that. They haven't won the division like 6 or 7 years at that point, and they finally won the division last year. But of course, guess what happened? They lost in the first round again. So the thing of the Braves with Bobby Cox and Greg Mackins was the greatest pitchers in all time. That's what they had with the pitchers. They didn't have any hitting to carry them because the pitchers were in the prime and they pitched well enough to win, and they played well enough to win the division and nothing else. That's why they suck, and they shouldn't get any credit in the Hall of Fame at all. That's because of that. They're just good enough to win the division, and that's it. And also they had helps from the umpires, because the umpires used to widen the strike zone just for those guys. So they always used to throw the best pitches on the corners, which were balls. So anybody who has decent eyesight, but the umpires just call strike, 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 strike. And there was also discussing the third guy is John Smoltz. Trio, Steve Avery, unfortunately, was actually the 4th guy. He has not gotten the credit that he got for that. He got royally screwed by the Braves and everything else. Well, I know I'm not focusing on the Hall of Fame, but I want to go back to it now. Because they put in Bobby Cox, who was the biggest fucking idiot. Excuse my language, but I have to say it, idiot who ever got into the Hall of Fame as a manager. For example, in 1992, the reason why I'm saying this was because if you remember in 1992 when the Braves, like I mentioned earlier, was lucky enough to beat the Pirates in the playoffs. During one of the games, I think it was a Sunday game, CBS changed the time of the game. Because originally I think it was game 4 or game 5 of the series they had with the Pirates. In the 92 playoffs, they switched the time to the Sunday game. And Deion Sanders, who was pretty much taking over as the full-time left fielder, passing over Ron Gant, because for publicity reasons he was playing. He was also playing football for the Atlanta Falcons. So not only was he a two-sport guy, but playing the 2 sports in the same city. As soon as he heard that they switched the time for the Sunday game, he went back on his word because he promised the Braves Braves management, and Braves fans, they were going to stay with the Braves until the playoff and/or World Series run is finished, then go back to playing for the Falcons for the rest of the year. Well, when they switched the time of the Sunday game, he went through, and the game was in Pittsburgh. He flew down to Atlanta to play for the Falcons, and then he flew back up just barely in time for the playoff game. And Bobby Cox got so mad that he benched him. And during the game, Tim McCormick and Sean McDonough were the two announcers. More Tim McCormick and Sean McDonough, who did the play-by-play, and McCormick was the color commentator. He really blasted Deion Sanders for good. So when the Braves won the pennant, Deion Sanders was going through the whole clubhouse, getting a big bucket, a big container full of ice water, and he constantly dumps it when Tim McCormick was hit. And of course, on YouTube, you can see the footage when he was covering the Mets, when he was the announcer for the Mets, and people come up to like Darryl Strawberry and pour champagne on McCormick's head, and it was fun. He was having fun with that, but nobody went out of their way to deliberately dump it on his head for what they said on the air. So that's what Deion Sanders did, because McCormick was scheduled to go into the Braves clubhouse, or to cover the Braves clubhouse celebration. Excuse me, if they won the pennant. And so Deion Sanders was going, "Where's McCormick? Where's McCormick?" He said, "Right here, Deion." Just dumps it on his head, and you can see that clip on YouTube. So what happened was Deion Sanders was not, and of course McCormick did make a full complaint, and so did CBS on Tim McCormick's behalf with the National League office and with the Commissioner's office. And Deion Sanders was not fined for what he did. He was not suspended for what he did, either from the league or from the Braves for what he did. And of course, guess who the manager was? The so-called Hall of Famer Bobby Cox. Well, the thing that also made it worse was 7 years later, in 1999, when the Braves were playing had a big rivalry with the Mets, and Larry Jones was in his prime and beat out Mike Piazza for the MVP award, which actually Mike Piazza should have won. But the reason why Larry Jones won over Mike Piazza was because of the 6 games they played in September. 3 games in Atlanta and 3 games at Shea. And they actually went to 2 of those games in Shea. And when the Braves beat the Mets, I think it was like 5 out of the 6 games that the Braves won. And after the 6th game, the Braves beat the Mets, I think like 4 games in a row. The Mets finally beat them in the middle game, and then the 3rd game of the series at Shea, they lost. Larry Jones made this infamous, and Larry Jones went to town on the Mets in those 6 games, and that's why he won the MVP award for those 6 games against the Mets. Him and Mike Schmidt are the only 2 guys who won the MVP award during the regular season for what they did against the Mets. Anyway, Larry Jones was interviewed in the clubhouse, and he says, "Now all you Met fans can put your Yankee gear on," pissing off every Met fan on the planet. Because me, as you can tell from behind me here, I'm a Met fan. I never once rooted for the Yankees in my whole life. Never. And not once do I ever consider putting on my Yankee gear on when the Yankees won the playoffs and the Mets won. And that thought never occurred in my mind at all. But that's what Larry Jones said. And again, Bobby Cox, who was the manager for the Braves, never fined him for what he said. For trash talking about the Mets, because the whole Braves team hated the Mets. Because they hated Bobby Valentine, who was the manager for the Mets, and they just wanted to beat him. So once again, Bobby Cox could not control his players. I told him not to trash the other team, because if the Braves were such a classy organization, or such classy players, they would not be doing what Deion Sanders did, or what Larry Jones, or Chipper Jones, or refused to call him Larry, did or said. But what was worse was in December of 1999, around like Christmas, New Year's time, John Rocker, who was a reliever for the Braves, who also did his own trash talking to the Mets and to the Met fans, did an interview for Sports Illustrated where he pretty much trash talked everybody who rode the number 7 line in New York City. Those of you who don't know, the 7 train was the subway line in New York City that goes to Shea Stadium and now of course also to Citi Field. It's the same line and the same subway stop. For those of you who don't know New York City, so Larry Jones said, "Oh, I rode the 7 trains like going through Beirut, a third class, a third world country, running on the 7 line, and you're running next to some queer with AIDS, or some Asian woman or black woman with 5 kids who can control them with 5 different guys." I mean, he said all this crap, and again, and put this on Bobby Cox in the Atlanta Braves. They didn't fine him. I think the league tried to. I think the league fined him. Fined John Michael for the racist comment. Not the Braves, not Bobby Cox, not the Braves management, but the Major League Baseball fined him for his comments, and he never apologized for it. All he said was, "Oh, they'll take it out of context." And then it took the Braves 2 years to train him. And then thankfully, I think they trained him to Cleveland. But by 2002, 2003, thankfully, 4 years. Unfortunately, it took 4 years, but it was out of a job in baseball. Thankfully, he hadn't been pitching in Major League Baseball for like 10 years now. Thankfully. But unfortunately, Bobby Cox did this, and he was a complete and total idiot. I mean, who has he managed to be? And the reason why I don't consider him a great manager was in 1992 when he was losing to the Blue Jays in the 6th game of the in the World Series. He had Jeff Wiener, who should have been elected to the Hall of Fame. By the way, Jeff Wiener, who blew 2 earlier games in the World Series. He was in the bullpen, it was all warmed up. I mean, I think the 6th game of the 92 World Series on YouTube. So if you ever see that game, you see Jeff Wiener standing there saying, "Bring me in, I'm all ready, what the hell are you doing, bring me in already." Does not bring him in, and Charlie Leibrandt lost the 6th game, lost the World Series because of Bobby Cox. Bobby Cox was intelligent manager. Did not bring in Jeff Wiener. I still won't bring him in. And Tim McCormick was going, why hasn't he brought him in? If he's not going to use Jeff Wiener because the other first two appearances in the World Series, why are you even having him warm up for? Why is he even warming him in the bullpen for? Why is Bobby Cox having him warm up for if he's not going to bring him in? And Tim McCormick even though Tim McCormick got a lot of criticism, and Tim McCormick is now a Hall of Fame announcer, he got right on the nose of that complaint. Of course, you have Joe Torre, who anybody who managed an All-Star in every single position, all 25 guys on the Yankees was an All-Star. Any dope could manage that team. From 96 to 2007, anybody could manage that team. And I'm surprised in 97 with Steinbrenner, because I think Steinbrenner was always losing his mind already. I think he had Alzheimer's with dementia already by 96. If it was the Steinbrenner of 10 years earlier, Joe Torre would have been fired after 1997 when the Yankees didn't win the World Series. He would have been fired then. Because he blew in 97, and then of course he won 3 years in a row, and then lost in 2001. I was surprised he wasn't fired in 2001, Torre. But then, unfortunately with Torre, he never won another World Series with the Yankees after that. He won 4 out of 5 years, including being the Braves twice. As a matter of fact, as I referenced earlier, in 1999, England was at one of those games. In 99. But then, of course, the other big big joke. And I'm not going to criticize Torrey too much because I feel they did deserve to. Of all those guys, he did deserve to be in the Hall of Fame because he was a winning manager, and he wasn't all that. The only controversial thing that he ever did was not allowing Roger Clemens to pitch at Shea Stadium after he beat Piazza in the head and threw the bat at him in the 2000 World Series. Because during the regular season in 2000, Clemens beat Piazza in the head, and then in the World Series he threw the bat at him. So for 2 years, he kept Clemens away from pitching at Shea Stadium during the Subway Series. To me, as a manager, that's the only thing they can really criticize him for. They allowed Clemens to do it. They allowed Clemens, because when Clemens was pitching against the Yankees for the Red Sox and then of course for Toronto, Torrey used to criticize Clemens for hitting at guys. And then when he beat Piazza in the head and threw the bat at him, then he defended him. Which is a joke for me as a baseball fan. Not only as a Met fan, but as a baseball fan. But then of course the most controversial Hall of Fame inductee this year, in my opinion, is Tony La Russa. You can say why Tony La Russa because all three of the guys going in this year had three of the highest winning percentages in terms of managers. And of course Tony La Russa is the second manager in baseball history to manage a World Series winning team in both leagues. First one was in 1989 with the Oakland A's, and then of course in 2006 with the Cardinals when he broke the curse of Keith Hernandez, managing the Cardinals for the 2006 World Series after beating the Mets in the playoffs. I mean, it's like almost all these guys like awarded. All these guys who are in the Hall of Fame this year, all the inductees are getting awarded for beating the Mets all the time. When it's in 2000, when the Mets beat the Cardinals in 2000, that's the only time. But all these guys got awarded for constantly beating the New York Mets all the time. That's why I also hate this Hall of Fame class. The reason why Tony La Russa is the most controversial one is because he helped, no doubt in my mind, he helped hide or cover up the steroid scandal that covered baseball since 2005 when Jose Canseco's book came out, Juiced, when his first book came out. And the reason why I say that is because Tony La Russa was Jose Canseco's first manager with Oakland. And not only did he manage Canseco, but he also managed McGwire throughout his time with Oakland, and then of course managed him again in St. Louis. If he didn't know that his boy, who was Mark McGwire was Tony La Russa's boy, if he was on steroids along with Canseco, he helped cover it up. And then when Canseco fingered La Russa and fingered McGwire in his book, that La Russa knew about what was going on and helped cover it up. That La Russa knew that Canseco and McGwire were both on steroids, and that Canseco was injecting McGwire with steroids when they were teammates together. And of course La Russa went nuts because he came up with this information. And Tony La Russa put on a good act. La Russa put on a good act, but Rafael Palmeiro also put on a good act. And pointing his finger says, "I'm not taking steroids, not a single time," in front of Congress. Both were a joke. Both were good comfortable balls, and La Russa went crazy that Canseco had the nerve to talk about stuff that was happening in the clubhouse. Because he doesn't have a right to talk about it in a book. Well, he does have a right to talk about it in a book. But now I found out recently that Canseco regretted writing the books. The reason why he wrote the book in the first place was to get even Major League Baseball, because they wanted to finish his career with somebody to hit 500 home runs, but nobody wanted to touch him. So to get even Major League Baseball for not giving him another job somewhere, or at least an American League team to give him a job so he can finish his career as a DH, or designated hitter, to hit his 500 home runs. So to get even with them, he wrote the two books talking about the steroid scandal. That's why he wrote the books, for out of revenge, not for money. Even though a lot of people criticize it for the money, anybody who writes a book does do it for money. I mean, people don't make books for free. I mean, I don't know one author who in the world, no matter what type of books they write, does the books for free. You do it for money. Everybody does stuff for money. But when Cassandra came on the book, when LaRusso hammered it because he had the nerve to criticize his boy, Mark McGwire, and then McGwire finally admitted that he did take steroids throughout most of his career, starting with Oakland and then, of course, later on with St. Louis in 1998 when he hit the 70 home runs. Then LaRusso was stupid enough to give him a job as a hitting coach. After he admitted it was on steroids. Yeah, so he gives steroids to all the rest of the guys. That's what he got a job for. It was a joke. And they put these guys in the Hall of Fame, and they did not put Mike Piazza in the Hall of Fame, which is an effing joke. And that's what I'm going to do in the next few minutes, is how the Hall of Fame treats some of the players. For example, of course, the number one guy who got the highest percentage of the Hall of Fame is Tom Seaver. He got 98.8% of the vote, and the second highest is I think it was Norman Myers got the second highest, and then Ty Cobb. But in Tom Seaver's case, and also I'm going to touch on mine in a second. Tom Seaver was 5 votes short of getting 100% of the ballot. It was like I think it was like 4. It wasn't that many votes cast that year. It was like 420 votes. It was like 425 ballots. It was named the 425 ballots that was cast that year. And one of the sports writers who didn't vote for Seaver, his name was Dean McGowan, and he was a writer in New York City for, I think, covered almost every baseball team that ever played in New York City. I'm talking major league team. And Jack Lang, who was then the secretary, God bless Jack Lang, he just passed away. And he says, "How can you not vote for Seaver?" And he makes up his own. The sports writer made up his own stupid rules. He says, "I don't vote for first year guys." Now, when we mean first year guys, it's guys who won the Hall of Fame ballot for the first time. He does not vote for people who won the ballot for the first time. And so and because of that, because of this idiot, Dean McGowan plus other sports writers, I'm sure there are other sports writers in the country who also don't vote for guys who won the first ballot. That's why, because of stuff like that, that's why you're never going to have a guy who's 100% on the ballot. And three other sports writers that year did not vote for Seaver because they sent in a blank ballot, because there was also would have been the year that Pete Rose would have gotten into the Hall of Fame, because it was his first year on the ballot, and they were in protest over the fact that the Hall of Fame decided not to put, because he's banned for life for gambling, they felt like that he should be on there. But they're depriving the sports writers for voting on. So 3 sports writers not vote for Pete Rose. I sent a blank ballot because of Pete Rose not being on the ballot. And the 5th guy, I don't know why he did not vote for him. And Donald Ryan with the same thing, he was like 6 votes short of getting 100% on the ballot. So that's why those 2 guys have the highest percentage of the voting. Well, Cal Ripken has the most votes because they had the most ballots cast that year. But in terms of Ryan, one of the sports writers that vote for him was a guy from the Philadelphia Daily News. They did not vote for Nolan Ryan because he was mad over the fact that his son got in the year before, in 1998. Because he felt that Son, even though he played for 20 years, won 300 games, struck out with 3,000 batters, he felt that Don's Son was not a great pitcher, was a mediocre pitcher who happened to pitch as long as he did, got the stats that he did. And he thought he should not get in the Hall of Fame. And Nolan Ryan, who was a similar pitcher than Son, or at least some of the stats, we know he has the most strikeouts in baseball history, he has the most no hitters in baseball history. And he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame because he felt that he was not a because he never won this 200 playing games only like twice, I think like twice in his career. Ryan and Son, I think only did it like once with 20 games. But because of that, he did win 20 games constantly every single year with the stuff that Ryan had. So he felt he shouldn't be in there. Because of stuff like that, that's why you're not going to have guys getting 100% on the ballot, even though you have a guy like Babe Ruth, for example. Didn't get 100% on the ballot. Ty Cobb, who was hated because he was a racist and everything else, he had the highest percentage of voting percentage to Tom Seaver in 1992. So you had guy and Mike Piazza, who should be in the Hall of Fame. The reason why he's not in the Hall of Fame is because I think for various reasons. One, people think that he was on steroids, which is not true because he never failed a drug test. And he was on amphetamines. He admitted in his recent book that he was on amphetamines, but he was not on. He was never on steroids. He claimed he was never on steroids. There was no proof that he was on steroids. But a sports fan said, "Oh, he had acne on his back. He had pimples on his back, so that's a sign of steroids." And also, when he was playing for the Mets, he had a very bad groin injury. He tore his groin muscle almost all the way down to the bone. So it's that's the only type of injury for steroids. How do they know? Only sports fans, doctors, you know. Because of that, and also many people think that he's a homosexual, which is also not true. Those reasons is why Piazza's not in the Hall of Fame. And the third thing is because most likely he hasn't been put in as a New York Met, and they don't want to put anybody who's, even though Tom Glavine was a Met for a while, they don't want to put anybody who will be recognized as a Met in the Hall of Fame. There's only one guy who's recognized as a Met in the Hall of Fame, and that's Tom Seaver. No one else is. I mean, you have a bunch of guys. You have about at least between 10 and 15 people who are in the Hall of Fame who were at one time or another a Met. Most of them were past that prime when they played here. Glavine was one of them. But at least they should be recognized, or at least mentioned in the Hall of Fame plaques they play on the Mets. Which of course it's never going to happen. I mean, you have Eddie Murray, you have Gary Carter, you have Richie Ashburn, you have Roberto Alomar, you have Ricky Henderson, you have Casey Stengel, who first managed the Mets. You have George Weiss, who was the executive. You have I think it's Eddie Murray. You have Roberto Alomar. You have Ricky Henderson. You have these guys, Richie Ashburn. You have these guys who are in the Hall of Fame who were Mets. Unfortunately, I'm recognized by them, and unfortunately, the sad thing is the Met management hasn't recognized, except for Gary Carter and Casey Stengel and Tom Seaver. They didn't recognize anybody else who was in the Hall of Fame as a Met. Alright, Willie Mays. I forgot to mention Willie Mays, Yogi Berra, and Duke Snider. All in the Hall of Fame as Mets, and the stupid Met management won't recognize them. Neither will the Hall of Fame. Even though the Hall of Fame is a great place to visit if you're a baseball fan. But also the biggest stroke I want to mention was in 2006 when Bruce Sutter got in. He got in along with 18 people from the Negro Leagues. Because they decided to, from 1995 to 2001, the Baseball Veterans Committee were forced to put in a Negro Leaguer in every year. And for a while they stopped doing that, and then in 1996 they decided to put a whole bunch of former Negro Leaguers in. And one of them was a woman whose husband owned the team. She wasn't even a straight out owner. She ran the team, but her husband owned the team, and her name was Effa Manley. I can't believe this woman has the name Effa Manley. And you remember this to ESPN Radio, they made a joke over her name. They put her in, if she didn't own or co-own a Negro League team, she'd not be in the Hall of Fame. And as a joke that she's the only woman in there. For me, as a baseball fan, if you want to put women in the or a woman in the Hall of Fame, put Joan Payson in there, who was the original owner of the New York Mets and the first woman to own a Major League Baseball team. She should have been in first before Effa Manley. And also, if you actually want to put other women in the Hall of Fame, put the women in from the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, because at least they were professional players. At least they played professionally. They should be in the Hall of Fame before Effa Manley, in my opinion. And one of those Negro Leaguers was now Buck O'Neil, who was an ambassador for the Negro Leagues for a long time. And he brought renewed interest in the Negro Leagues when he appeared in the Ken Burns baseball series, which I previously reviewed. If it wasn't for Buck O'Neil, I'm sure the Hall of Fame Veterans Committee would not did that thing like 6 years in a row, putting Negro Leagues in there. So I know there's a long video, over 40 minutes already. So I hope you liked the video of the Hall of Fame and please take a like on the video. I want to cut this thing short already because this video is getting too long. But seriously, if the Hall of Fame wants to do it right in terms of with women, getting women in there, put Joan Payson in there and put the women from the Girls League from the 1940s in the Hall of Fame. At least you have actual legitimate women players in there. If they could put the Negro Leaguers in there, why can't they put the players from the Girls League in the Hall of Fame? If anybody from the Hall of Fame, like Jane Forbes Clark, who was one of the executives of the Hall of Fame, or anybody from the committee for the Hall of Fame, who run the Hall of Fame, consider putting the women for the Women's League in the Hall of Fame. I feel that they deserve it more than the 18 Negro Leaguers who put in 2006. My opinion. Please, I hope you enjoyed this video with the Hall of Fame. Please click on the video. Please rate it. Comment on it. Please subscribe to my channel. And please forward this video onto your Facebook pages. Or share this video onto your Facebook pages. Thanks for watching. You catch you next time. And maybe hopefully you get back to doing movie reviews next time. Catch you later.